Hey guys! So, I'm finally not sick and I can record a video with a normal voiceover, so today we're gonna take a look at the best weapons for the medic class after the January update. If you haven't been following the news for the past couple of weeks, or 2 weeks actually, we got pretty big changes in the medic class. It is actually the biggest gunplay change we've had since the release of Battlefield 5. And because of that, the previous video I created talking about the best weapons for the medic class is pretty much outdated at this point. It is not a good point of reference, so yeah, let's take a look at the best weapons. Once again, which ones are the best ones to play with after the January update? 2019 of course, in case you're a time traveler. Before we get into it though, I just want to mention that all of the statistics used to actually check all of the best combinations of weapons were provided by KHD120 in the Reddit post, which is linked down in the description. Alright, so what do we got? When it comes to the short range engagements, and by short, when talking about medic class, I mean really short engagements, 10 to 15, maybe 20 meters, we got the Suomi. And nothing really changed here from the previous video. It is still the best weapon to go with. 770 rate of fire combined with 50 bullets in the magazine if you go with the right skill tree, but we're gonna talk about it in a second. If you want a gun to run into an enemy or even a group of enemies and simply blow off their faces, that's the Suomi. That's pretty much the only choice you can go with when it comes to the medic weapons arsenal. Super fast rate of fire combined with a big magazine combined with a decent accuracy from the hip fire. What else? It's perfect. When it comes to the skill tree, I recommend you go with the path on the right side. And here is why. While I know there is quite a lot of fans of Suomi with increased rate of fire, I don't really think it's necessary. And also, if you want to go for increased rate of fire, you will have to give up an extended magazine, which, in my not so humble opinion, is actually one of the things that makes Suomi so great, because realistically, if you play Battlefield 5, majority of the engagements you get, they're not 1v1, you're gonna run into a group of enemies, a squad playing together or even randoms just running together in the same direction, and if you run into them with 20 bullets in your Suomi with increased rate of fire, it won't really help you much. Although, yes, granted, if you want to go for the increased rate of fire, it is still a viable choice, but in my opinion, it is better to go with extended magazine because the base rate of fire of Suomi is good enough. And also, in my opinion, having an extended magazine benefits you much more than increased rate of fire because, realistically, if you increase rate of fire and you don't have bullets to shoot enemies with, you're still dead, so yeah. In my opinion, you should go for the extended magazine. Okay, the next one. We have the new ZK3A3, which was actually added in this week's Tides of War challenge, so if you still haven't unlocked it, you have about 3 days to do so, when I post this video. Anyway, 30 bullets in the magazine, 720 rate of fire, and great damage output on somewhat short to medium distance. It's really hard to judge distance for the medic class because submachine guns, they're not really designed for the average Battlefield 5 maps, and even if we say that something goes up to a medium distance for a submachine gun, it is still a very short distance if you compare it to the other weapons, so yeah, just keep it in mind. But I recommend you go with this skill tree, increasing the rate of fire, even though the standard rate of fire is still very viable. But I recommend you increase it because why not? Realistically, the only gain you get if you don't increase it is 10 more bullets in the magazine, but this compared to what we had with the Suomi where you would get 30 extra bullets in the magazine instead of 10, it's not that big of a difference. However, I must admit that you can potentially go with the whole right skill tree and it is still a very good option because you can actually shoot on a bit longer distances since due to a lower rate of fire, the weapon becomes much easier to control. But when we're talking about a bit longer distances, we have slightly better options here. Actually, 2 weapons, which we should get into because we're halfway through the video and we have 2 more weapons to talk about. Anyway, let's get to it. MP28. 670 rounds per minute rate of fire combined with, watch this, 50, yes, 50 bullets in the magazine. Now, I recommend you go with this skill tree. And before anyone asks a very good question asking me why would you specialize your weapon to have a quicker aim and then specialize the whole weapon to have a better hipfire accuracy? Isn't it like pointless? Well, technically it would be, if not for the fact that the other option that I have instead of the quicker aim is simply useless, so it's always better to go for the one that's even remotely useful in a given scenario. Seriously though, I very much do recommend you go with the left skill tree, as shown in the picture right now, because realistically, it's all you need for the MP28. You go for the big magazine, you go for the increased accuracy from the hip, and you're just simply shredding everyone into pieces. I personally find the MP28 to be the easiest gun to use out of all of the guns in this video, because it is simply so manageable. Like, you literally have to just hold the mouse down, hold the mouse button and pull it down while shooting, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Or a controller in case you're on console, but realistically that's it, and you're getting a brilliant hipfire accuracy. What else would you want? Like, that's it. But if you want to go on an even slightly longer distances than those slightly longer than short ones, being the medium ones we just talked about, there is the MP34. And I'll admit, it's my favorite gun out of the medic arsenal right now, simply because I can actually effectively shoot enemies who are a bit further away from me. The weapon offers 514 rounds per minute rate of fire, combined with 32 bullets in the magazine, if you extend it with specializations, which we're gonna talk about in a second, but essentially it's pretty much the only medic gun which is suited for longer distances. And I'm fully aware that we also have the EMP in the medic's weapon arsenal, but EMP is slightly worse than the MP34, so logically, why would you go for the EMP if MP34 is better, and they are suited for the same purpose? Why would you? And it's not that the EMP is bad, it's just that the MP34 is a bit better, so yeah, that's why you should go with it, pretty much. When it comes to the skill tree, I recommend you go with this one. Again, this case, I recommend you actually go with the extended magazine, because the increased rate of fire doesn't really make that much sense with this gun, because you're gonna be left with 20 bullets in the magazine. And also, it's a bit harder to actually control the gun once you go up with the rate of fire than it is on the standard one. And on the standard one, trust me, it is super easy. You don't have to do much, like, you just have to aim at the enemy and obviously click, but other than that, not much is required from you. With this one, you can actually extend the range of engagement a little bit, although, once again, as I've already mentioned it throughout the video a couple of times, if we are talking about long-range distances for the submachine guns, for the medic class, they're not going to be nowhere near as long as the ones for the assault or for the support or even for the sniper, which is a completely bizarre combination at this point. We shouldn't even compare snipers to SMGs, but the point being, you, sadly, will not be able to outgun an assault with a semi-automatic weapon, because it's simply impossible. Unless the other guy simply sucks and is terrible and can't hit you, but if we assume they can actually hit you, they are a decent player, then you're not really gonna win the engagement if they're on the longer distance. But if they're up close, you have the advantage, so it's like you have to keep the close distance, even if you have a longer distance weapon for the medic class. You get what I'm saying? Hopefully. It's a really tricky scenario here, because realistically, if you play other maps than Fiel, Rotterdam or Devastation, you're gonna be put at the disadvantage, no matter what medic gun you actually pick, by the map design, and not by your weapon choices. Now, before you click off the video, I just want to mention one thing really quickly. All of the other guns which are not listed in this video are also good. They're just a bit worse in the current build of the game. But it doesn't mean that if your favorite weapon isn't listed in the video, you shouldn't play with it. And realistically, no matter what DICE does with Battlefield 5, we will always end up in a scenario where some of the weapons are better than the others, because they cannot simply balance them out perfectly. It is never gonna happen. So yeah, it's always gonna be this way, but it doesn't mean that the other guns aren't usable. They are very good, so yeah, as always. If you enjoyed, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I see you on the battlefield.